Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Chad and I are here for a very special Chad and Mel event, but it is, for all intents and purposes, a Chad event. We are going to be discussing Chad's self-titled album, CHAD SIWIK, unpacking the story behind it and each of the tracks on this amazing, epic album. So we are going to dive right in.
Yes, well, I'm so happy to be doing this with you, Mel, because I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else. And Mel and I are super close friends, and she has all kinds of things going, Disney blogging and all kinds of things. But for you to agree to do this means a lot to me, so I appreciate it.
So happy to. I listened to the album over and over and over again, and I was almost in tears today because listening to Prince Lightmare and then listening to this, there is such a glow up and a grow up, and just it's such an amazing follow-up to an already great album. But it's a testament to like the sophistication of your technical skills and your artistry. So I'm just so proud of you. Couldn't be more proud.
Oh, that's super high praise, and that means the world to me. I thank you so much.
So I am familiar with your first major album, Prince Lightmare, which debuted on August 16th, 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
That, we're talking 10 years ago. Now, since then, you dropped the Dark EP, which had 4 tracks on it. 2, I think, were new tracks, and 2 were, 2 were unreleased. Do I have that right?
You're very close. 2 were like new versions of songs that were available, and then 4 were brand new tracks.
So since then, in 2016 and 2017, we got to see a lot of music videos along with that debut album, which are fantastic and are on your YouTube channel, which we'll link in the iCards and in the description. So my first big question for you is, it's been 10 years since the debut of Prince Lightmare in August of 2011. So at what point did you know you wanted to make the CHAD SIWIK album? And at what point did you really start to begin to conceptualize what you wanted it to be?
Well, it happened organically because I kind of never stopped making music, but I'm a huge fan of the album format, which a lot of independent artists aren't making, I think for good reason, because EPs are so accessible. There's so much more, it's shorter, like a 6-song format, so you can really like explore a theme really tightly and also captivate someone who has a lot of, everyone's attention span is so fractured right now.
Right.
So it makes the EP is the popular format now for most artists, and I think even like Miley Cyrus and all these people are making EPs. So I kind of stubbornly wanted to buck that trend a little bit because I am so obsessed with the album format from all of the artists that I grew up listening to, and I just was always in love with that format. This album isn't really like a concept album per se, as much like Prince Lightmare was, but however, every album just has a vibe that where it kind of all works together, right? So boy, it was super time consuming and a lot of hard work. So it's just even more of a feeling of accomplishment for those reasons. And I'm just really happy to put it out. Probably really throughout the last 5 years, I was still always making music, making, like you said, the EPs, the singles. So you just start making songs, and then you start to notice a pattern between songs, and it kind of happens just organically, believe it or not. That part is not as contrived as you would think. And then eventually there was a point like 4 songs in where I'm like, okay, there's a theme for this album. And the theme that emerged was telling the story of a relationship over a more of an extended period of time. So a lot of times people talk about, when love is new and you have that spark. And I think there's a song on here that we'll get to that is that moment. But then there's also, I've been in a long-term relationship now for quite a while. And I wanted to explore like the different parts of more of a long-term relationship. So this album kind of takes you on that journey, and it's not 100% sequential, but it does take you on, it's snapshots of a relationship over a long period of time. So that ended up being the concept, and then there's 1 or 2 songs that kind of jump out from that concept a little bit to explore different facets of what this album could be.
Yeah, I'm glad that you shared the storytelling element because that's what jumped out at me, and it's definitely a different chapter to the larger story of your music. There's definitely an evolution in what you have to say about romance and love, and you shared in interviews that you're heavily influenced by the pop stars of the 1980s, Madonna, Paula Abdul, and I want to invite you to tell us a little bit more about the people that influenced you, but more specifically, those influences clearly can be heard on your first album and can clearly be heard on CHAD SIWIK. So my question is, how have those stars, those artists' influence on you changed between that album and this one, if at all? And are there any new influences that you brought to bear on this album?
Well, I think Prince Lightmare was definitely more of a concept album, and I really wanted to hit the 80s. I really wanted to target that, and I even had, as you know, an alter ego, which is the namesake of the album, Prince Lightmare, who was the embodiment of the exploration of that decade for the album. And I think that for that reason, those 80s influences are just more obvious in that album. And then I think in an album like this, which is a more updated sound, it's a more relaxed version of me, a less conceptualized, just a more honest version, because there is no alter ego, it's just me. So when you kind of take that approach, it's just very different. It's a lot more intimate in terms of getting to know my actual personality through the music. It's less of a screen in front of me or a mask that I'm wearing. So it surprises me who people hear my music, because I'm always very open about like who I love so much and who has really influenced me growing up. Mainly as a kid, it was, of course, like you mentioned, Paula Abdul, Madonna, also Debbie Gibson were like huge for me growing up. And then into the 90s, it was always female singer-songwriters, but Tori Amos, Kate Bush, Alanis Morissette, and Fiona Apple in the 90s. And then, it opened up for me to more and more people after that. But those were like my hardcore influences. But I always feel like it's not for me to say who I sound like. It's for like an audience to say, because it's always really, that's a tricky question that artists get all the time, especially independent artists. Like, who do you sound like? Who is your influence? And it's tricky because you don't always sound like your influences necessarily, but they kind of do creep in. But it's always unexpected for me how someone interprets the music, because it's always heard differently by everyone. I think it's a very subjective art form. So I think the biggest difference between the two albums is that first one is so conceptualized and it does have that alter ego, and that the new one is, I think that's why it's my namesake too. It's the self-titled album for that reason, is because it is so much more stripped down and I think honest in that way. So there's pros and cons to both of those approaches, but that's the main difference.
Yeah, it's really apparent that we're getting to hear CHAD SIWIK and not a persona on this album, which is really great. It really, this album really invites your fans and new listeners in, and it does so well. You mentioned Prince Lightmare being kind of more of a conceptual album, and with exceptions to tracks like maybe Dark, which is very down-tempo, and Dreamscape Experiment, which is very conceptual, the album as a whole is very, very up-tempo, high-tempo, kind of synth pop. Whereas CHAD SIWIK is much more mid-tempo and, it's a different mood. So I was hoping you could talk to us a little bit about if that was something that was intentional or if that kind of came to be more organically.
I think it is organic. I'm at a different place in my life now, and I think there's two sides to the answer to that question. The first I'll just say is that when I made Prince Lightmare, I was clubbing all the time. I was going to dance clubs. I was like living that dance club life. I was influenced by if you've ever seen the movie Party Monster, the side of it not the dark side of the film, but the side of it that explores those club kids that were in New York City downtown in the 80s and 90s. They were like a huge influence for me, and I was kind of like living that. And I think now my life is so different from that. I don't go to the dance clubs that much, and I have much more of a home life. And so I think you see a little bit of maybe remembrance of those times, but you see the actuality of like how I am now. But I also want to just give a shout out to Luke Icard, who I created this album with, because I think he is the reason for some of those things too. And it started off like as just wanting to maybe collaborate because I was a bit of a control freak, and I think I basically did everything myself, and I felt like I took on maybe too much sometimes, and I just thought I want to see what it's like to let it be more of a collaboration and bring someone in. And so Luke and I have known each other since back then, and I've always wanted to create an album with him. And so he brought a lot of those vibes that you're hearing that I was like, yes, this is working. I'm really feeling this. This matches where I'm at, that type of thing. And so it was kind of like a coming together of both of our sensibilities in that way too.
Definitely a mood and a tonal shift, and it's absolutely beautiful. So I want to talk about the tracks individually, and I want to say that the first track off the album, Explode, is not at all what I expected from you, because I had expected, high tempo out of the gate, and I was actually really, really surprised by how much Explode, which, even with a title like that, you think you're gonna go like hard right out of the gate, and it's very, very, very inviting. Like the opening notes they just invite you in, and it's a little bit of a more down-tempo vibe. And I was just hoping you could tell us a little bit more about why you chose that for track one, and what's the story behind Explode.
Right. Well, first off, I'm just so happy because these are some of the first responses I'm hearing about the album. Of course, you heard the album because I shared it with you before it was even released, and so these are some of the first impressions I'm just hearing, and it's just so cool to finally share it, especially with someone like you who I care so much about. Basically, I just, it's funny that you say that it's more down-tempo, because it is, but I think it's a little bit of a sonic trick too, because some of the tempos are actually, most of them are around like 120, which is kind of in the realm of like up-tempo pop dance music. But I think it's the delivery and execution of them that is so much more chill, that is just so much more like airy and lush in a lot of ways. And I think that the way that production envelops each song gives it just a totally different vibe than the songs on Prince Nightmare, which are so much more immediately danceable and beat forward, right? But the tempos are not that far off actually from the tempos on the first album, around the 120s BPMs. I don't know that it was like so much of a choice. Like I want to be less like up tempo, and I want to be way just more natural. I think it just sort of just like happened naturally throughout the music I've been making. If you look at Prince Nightmare, the stuff in between, and then the new album, there is a slow shift that just starts to happen. But a lot of it too is what Luke was bringing also to the table.
So your second track is also your single, Horizon. I know why that song is a single, in my opinion. I want to hear why you chose it, or why it chose you as a single. But it's absolutely beautiful. It builds off of Explode. It's still not, a super hyper pop dance track. It's still more mellow and chill and calm, and you're still kind of inviting the listener in, and your lyrics are, I know love is on the horizon, but it feels more mature than the pining that was happening in your previous album. It's more of somebody who is in their skin and is just ready to receive love. So I want to hear all about Horizon.
Oh, that's great to hear. Well, I just thought like Explode was the perfect song to sort of like kick the album off, but we wanted Horizon really close to the start of the album because I wanted people to get that accessible access to what I think is the catchiest song on the album. Lyrically, the way it repeats, the way the lyrics unfold, the way the song unfolds, just everything about it to me, I just thought this is the standout track in terms of accessibility, catchiness, all those things. So we just kind of, Luke and I both kind of always knew that Horizon was gonna be the single. It was kind of our favorite for a while. When we only had like 5 songs, it was like definitely the standout one. But I think Explode, like it explodes the album open in a way. And then Horizon is really the start of the narrative of a relationship over a long period of time. So Horizon is that spark when you first meet someone and you feel like something really special. Maybe you haven't even met them yet, right? But you're just driving with your friends, you're out at night, and you just know something special could happen that night. And it's all about like possibility and spark of meeting new people and just that excitement that's in the air, that electricity. So I just think it's a standout song for that reason too, because that moment is so electrifying for everybody to relate to. So yeah.
It's a very danceable song. It's so chill and it's so hopeful. It's just like it gives your first couple of tracks give such a welcoming and inviting vibe to listeners and fans alike, and that does not change with track 3, Breeze, which is probably, dare I say, your most chill song. I mean, the title says it all. It's absolutely beautiful. It has one of my favorite lyrics in, which I'll get to. But you know, again, this for me as a listener, it's very much, there's a lot of confidence in this album, lyrically and sonically. And you can definitely tell that the way that you're talking about love is from a place of confidence and relaxation. Like you're in it and you're not worried about losing it or, you know, wishing for it. You're just there. So I want to hear more about Breeze and the inspiration or story behind it.
Right. So like it's the narrative of a relationship over a long period of time is not exactly in perfect sequential order on the album because it's a marriage between what sounded right in the order in terms of what key the song is in and what tempo and all those things. And there's so many things that I'm considering at one time when I'm sequencing the tracks, the order of the tracks. But more or less, it does tell that story of that relationship building. And in this song, I'm already together with someone, right? I've already met that person. We're together. We're gonna go on some kind of exploratory vacation together. And I always think that is so much fun when two people are like really passionate about the same thing, like going on trips together. I think that is like really magical too.
With you, where no one can find us, under the leaves, surrounded with green, that's where I don't forget to remember how much it means. Island breeze, I wanna go to the island, so tropical.
It is very chill, and I love that about it. And actually, this song wasn't going to be on the album because we had made it, and then we were like, well, it's tropical, and I don't know, like I just don't know, like I don't know why, but I just didn't know about this song. And then I sort of put it in the B-sides category of which there are maybe like 4 songs we didn't use for the album. So that I just felt like weren't right for this project. And then as we started getting more toward the end of the album, I went back in there and I kind of looked and I was like, that the album needs a song that is like all the way chill, I feel. It really just needs something to kind of break it up and just to give it a different flavor. Because I also wanted this album, even though all the songs fit well together, I wanted the songs to take off in different directions. Like, I think every great album does. So every great album kind of has a theme or ingredients, but then it takes you in different directions with every single song. So it ended up fitting perfectly on the album in the end, and then we were both like, why it almost didn't make the album, and we both love it so much now. So I'm really happy that I brought it back. But
I'm glad you kept it, and it has one of my favorite lyrics on the album, which is, I don't want to forget to remember, which I just think is absolutely beautiful. And you know, it's just such a profound reminder to be in the moment, because you never know how long anything's gonna last, and it's just beautiful. I'm glad you kept it. I mean, after that, with track 4 and Dreamer, the tempo starts to, or the energy of the album starts to get a little bit more hype. We're starting to get more into dance territory. And it's also got an excellent lyric in it. You want it to end, I want to redo, I'm not done talking, does that surprise you?
yes.
A bitch was taken aback. It was so good. Dare I say iconic. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But it's like, again, it's a much more sophisticated, and it's still got that like sass that you had on your debut album, but it's coming from a place of somebody who has been in a long-term relationship, who's been in love. It's more adult. I think it's fantastic. So talk to us about Dreamer.
Yeah. I'm loving the lyrics that you're spotlighting. They're some of my favorites as well. And I just think that, so by Dreamer, we're fast forwarding a little bit, and we're with someone where everything is not so special, like every moment, right? The afterglow is over, but when you trade afterglow for a stability that you don't have in the beginning of the relationship, right? So it's a positive thing, but we're further in the relationship, and it's nothing is ever perfect with any two people. So that's a moment where you're like, you know what? I'm gonna keep talking, and you might not want me to, but this won't surprise you. I have more to say.
Right.
So it's an honest moment for me to say like, hey, maybe things have to be said. There's things that I have to say. I have to tell you how I feel, even if it's not the perfect moment to do it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think the title is beautiful too. The title almost is a juxtaposition to like the tone and the lyrics of the song. But I think it's beautiful. I think the messaging is beautiful.
Should not surprise you.
I might sound like a broken record with this, but there is so much confidence in the way that your artistry and your sound, it's steeped in confidence, and it comes through, and that certainly is the case with Surefire, which, you know, the title says it all. So I want to hear all about Surefire and this kind of, again, being in this place of like, take me as I am, take it or leave it. Is that coming from a personal place, or is that something that you wanted to convey to your fans and your listeners as aspirational? Like, this is what we should be when we're in love.
No, it's again, it's pretty organic, and I am blown away by your impressions. They are teaching me a lot, because I didn't make the album thinking I'm so this is very confident, this is very confident. It it just was what it was, and it just happens to be confident. But that's amazing that you're picking up on that so strongly, and now in hindsight, I'm realizing it more. You don't really think of those things in the moment as much, obviously, but it makes a lot of sense that in 10 years, someone would have a lot more understanding about relationships and how mature relationships work, how long-term relationships work, you know, the give and take that happens in relationships, those things that are on a much more mature level. And I didn't realize how much that shone through.
So let's find a surefire way.
When certain artists make an album every single year, like back to back to back, for whatever reason, I think that can suffer too.
Yeah.
Because for me personally, and everyone's artistic process is different, but for me, what I really love is like living life, observing, you know, living a great life and taking in a lot of art inspiration. So like books, you know how much I love film, all those things, like just taking in as much as I can and then putting something out. So I think there's like a give and a take that happens just naturally, and there's a reservoir that has to fill back up before I'm ready to like create something again. So Surefire is just, it's similar to Dreamer. In the story of the relationship, I'm in a similar place.
Yeah, and I think it's very wise. You and I have talked a lot about this offline, you know, the awareness of the trappings that artists fall into, where they're trying to do too much, or they're trying to play to an audience, or, you know, pander, or, you know, marketing and focus grouping and all of that. So I think the concept of giving things time to breathe and allowing yourself as an artist to be, your word, you know, a reservoir to be replenished and filled back up with inspiration before going back to work on your art is really wise, and it certainly shines through on this.
The benefit of being a fully independent artist is having complete control, number one, not answering to anybody, but also doing things my way without like, well, I have to get this out by this time, otherwise
Right.
I don't meet an obligation, right? So
You're not beholden to all of that nonsense.
Right.
You were just talking about the importance of taking time after a project to replenish the reservoir, as it were, and, you know, be, you know, filled back up by life experiences and new inspirations, which takes time. And time is the name of the next track on the album. And I just want to tell you, like, there's a narration, there's a little bit of a voiceover moment, spoilers, at the beginning of this track, and it was giving me very much Madonna, but it was also giving me very much, like, Thievery Corporation and a little bit of Sigur Rós in the tone and, like, the texture of this song. I absolutely love this song. Another one of my favorite lyrics on this album. So I was getting themes of patience with this song. So talk to us about Time.
Time is another song that's continuing that exploration of a long-term relationship. And I feel like we live in immediacy more than ever before. So I think this is a call for us to have patience. But it's also like, these things take time. I always wanted to really know someone extremely well over a period of years before like I got married or did anything like that. So I am more conservative in that respect. But it is true to me that from everything I've learned, that you really don't get to know somebody in the first 6 months that you know them. Things really are only apparent and obvious to you over time.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the crux of the song and what it's getting at about, you know, that it takes time. Even two people who couldn't be more compatible will have things that they inevitably discover that they have to work through together to reach a higher plane in their relationship together. And then that just takes time. So it all comes back to time, and I love the title Time because I just love time as this human concept, this construct.
We've had problems, but we solve them. No one's perfect, but we work it. Things are so good, future so bright. Keeping on the level, holding tight.
There's a few sci-fi elements to the album, which we will touch on, I'm sure, but this is like another one of those, like a little Stephen Hawking in there. Time, just the concept of time, yeah. And there's a ticking at the start, so it kind of like a clock tick almost at the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. It's a great dance track too. I mean, the lyrics, okay, we've got what we want. It's not perfect, but with time, you know, we can fix the things. I mean, it's a testament also to, you know, putting in the work in a long-term relationship, and the song really speaks to that. It's absolutely beautiful.
Absolutely, it's all about putting in that work and not just wanting instant gratification, right?
Yeah.
Which is what our entire society is conditioning us to be all about, is instant gratification. Well, if you really want a meaningful relationship with somebody else, you're gonna have to forego instant gratification a lot of times to really get to that next level.
Yeah, the honeymoon does not last forever.
No.
So I am very excited to speak about and learn about the next 2 tracks on this album, which might be some of my favorites. But let's talk about Alien. Now, your fans clearly know that Alien, Ridley Scott's Alien, is your favorite movie, but new listeners may not know that. So I don't want to make any assumptions about any direct allegories to that film, but it's hard to ignore the title. This is a dance track, sir. So talk us through the inspiration for Alien. The lyrics are absolutely stunning. And I have many thoughts on the mixing of the audio in this, but talk us through the inspiration and the story behind Alien.
Yeah, a lot went into the soundscape of the song, more than just it's a song. Like, it's also like cinematic a little bit. And Alien by Ridley Scott from 1979 is my #1 favorite movie. So how could I not have a song called Alien? And actually, before this album, there was a brief moment where I was exploring the idea of making, and maybe I still will, but making an album where every single song is very tied to a specific film, and going, and so it ended up this is called Alien, kind of as a thread from that experiment in a way, but it's not about the film Alien at all. It's again about love and about relationships, and it's at the point in the album where we start to open up thematically to like a bigger picture about society and culture and all of us in it together. So we've really been in it with one person in the story of the album up until this point, and now we're starting to look at the bigger picture, like how does everyone fit in together.
We are exploring through our galaxy. We are exploring our galaxy.
I wrote the song as things started to wind up with quarantine and identity politics and like all these things swirling around us that were weighing on me, and I was like, I want to say some stuff about this. I say specifically, you know, it's easier to build a wall than to address the problems that make people feel like we need a wall and stuff like that. And so there's very direct references to all kinds of things of what was going on in our country at that time, but it's also an ode to space exploration. I feel like this is the point in the album where sonically we're like leaving Earth, and we're gonna explore something even more on the next track, but we're starting that journey, like we're floating through space. And I have a huge soft spot for NASA. As you know, I work for NASA, so I'm get to do that as well. And this is like kind of a tribute to that my passion for human space exploration, like us as a race of beings out there discovering and pushing the limits of us not being a single planetary species.
Yeah.
And it's another one that was like, I don't know if it's gonna make it or not, but then actually when we talked the next track, it made me be like, we need Alien, because Alien is the link of the first however many songs to make the next song even like appropriate. Otherwise it's just like, we need a bridge between, and it's the first time on the album that I call for us to come together, because I feel very, very passionately about that. I feel that everything is dividing us right now. Social media is dividing us. It's breaking up families. Politics is more divisive than ever. And I feel like, yes, those are things we're passionate about, but those are things that are a cancer on us right now. They're eating away, they're dividing us, they're making us weaker, and we're stronger when we come together. We're always gonna have differences, but we need to find a way to come together. And I think we cycled back to that theme at the very end of the album.
It's a testament to your artistic sensibility that you're able to incorporate all of those elements in a way that is nuanced enough to not be preachy and instead be very sensual and evocative. I mean, you talk about the wall, but you also, you know, God, what is the line that I'm thinking about? If I were an alien from a different planet, I wouldn't focus on our differences. It's just beautiful.
Right.
It's so simply elegant and beautiful, and it's got one of the best beat drops on the album. And it going back to like the mixing and the layering that you do, you know, there's in the latter part of the track, there's, you know, the tempo's building, the song is building to like a crescendo, and you're kind of talking over yourself, and there's these layers of voiceovers, and it's just so it's got such texture and depth, and it's just very sensual, and I just think it's a beautiful song.
So much gets made of our differences. If you distill things down to emotions, love, fear, sadness, all these things are universal. All these things are core to all of us. So I think that is so much more important than, you know, ever focusing on a difference. And this is a call to say, hey, if we zoom out and we have bird's eye view, or we're an alien species and we're coming to see the human race for the first time, we would look like a one race of beings. We wouldn't look like, oh, you have these people that they look slightly different, so we're gonna really differentiate them. No, it'd more or less be like, this is a race of beings.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just saying, it's a call to step back and like look at things that bigger picture.
I absolutely love Alien, I absolutely do. And I have to tell you, I did not appreciate what you did to me with the track titled Destination, because the first time I heard it, I was...
Under the handrails and stay clear of the doors. They will be closing in just a moment.
I'm a Disney girl. I was taken aback and was not expecting to be gifted with such a track. Destination is just that. It is not only a gift, but it's a dance track, and I cannot wait to blast this with you on the monorail on our way to ride Space Mountain. You open this track, sir. You had the audacity to open this track with an homage to the monorail. Please stand clear of the doors. Talk to us about Destination.
It's a total tribute to Disney's monorail system, and I thought about you so hard when I was making this song because of that. And I know your love for it, and I think I even said, like, I texted you one time, you probably will not remember this, and I'm like, I'm working on something that is like,
yes,
that you are gonna like really relate to. This was that song, and it's just like, yeah, I literally took the actual like old school script of the monorail and rewrote it to be a monorail on the moon, but I kept the feeling of the Disney monorail system. So it's literally that script rewritten for like a lunar monorail system, which I feel like we should have evolved to if Epcot were like the grand vision of the future.
It's beautiful. It's so full of joy. It is a dance track. It is just a happy song, and I am absolutely in love with it.
I really want to go. I think that it should flow. I think that you move slow, and I want to go to places that are unknown, somewhere that should be shown. I really want to borrow your remote.
This is another one that I saw very cinematically. So in my mind, like the whole time I'm working on the song, I'm literally in a monorail with like other, for lack of a better word, like club goers, and we're about to hit the town for a night out, and it's like the ultimate like let's go clubbing song, even though those days are probably behind me in some ways.
Even though the club is Disney.
Yeah, right? Well, it's all about destinations and just the excitement of going different places. So like there's a random voice that keeps announcing like what destination we're going to be at next, and I tried to like randomize it a little bit, and it's like we're going here, we're going here, we're going here, and it's just the excitement about all that. And also like I just imagine like stepping onto a monorail and there's other people in there, and just meeting other people, and I just tried to like fully envision it. So I was like literally completely imagining this whole monorail system on the moon, and yeah.
It's a very visually evocative song. It's really well done.
And it's the most different on the album from all the other tracks, I think. It's definitely, like, I feel like you really needed Alien to bridge the other tracks to it, like I was saying, but it is definitely, like, let's go in a different direction for 4 minutes or 5 minutes, however long it is. And I think it's the longest track on the album, too, and it's an allowance to do something a little bit different. It's a permission song.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun.
It's a delight. It's a delight. And you know, with Alien kind of giving permission for Destination to exist, track 9 Moment feels kind of like a little bit of a return to the narrative.
Yes.
And it's, oh man, this song is absolutely beautiful. It again is, you know, for me, it's coming from the point of view of somebody who is confident in their relationship, confident in their love, and not just confident in their love, but you repeat the lyrics, you're good for me, you're good for me, you're good for me, which is just such a beautiful mantra. And I just want to hear all about what inspired you to write Moment.
Yeah, oh my gosh, well, I'm loving this with you right now. You're hitting the nail right on the head. So with Alien, we're leaving Earth. With Destination, we are on the moon. And then we have to close it out. So the last 2 tracks on the album do that. I feel like it couldn't have been done with just one track. We needed to pull it back with Moment and then close it out with World. But yes, Moment is kind of a return to form of the first half of the album.
Good for me, good for me. The moment I found you, everything just happened. Now we're stuck like glue, and I'm just glad it's you.
It's also zooming out further. So we keep zooming out on this album, and I think with Alien, we were zooming out from the relationship level to the cultural level. And I think with Moment, there's parts of Moment where we zoom out to the cosmic level.
Yeah.
And I just love that, and it was such a treat to be able to do that. When I talk about Take Me Back to the Start, it's a reference to the Big Bang. And so we are really like on that cosmic level with this, but there's also a really intimate relationship level happening at the same time in the song, where we're talking about, you know, the moment we met, everything just fell into place, everything happened, and it's done, the vocals are done in a much more intimate way that it's not like a belter, right? It's way more pulled in, like pulling you in close to me and saying that everything feels right now, you know?
Yeah. I mean, my favorite song of yours prior to hearing CHAD SIWIK is Love Crush on Prince Lightmare. And Love Crush gives me very much just pining energy, but like healthy pining, and just like the sensation of having a crush on somebody that we all can relate to and love. And with Moment, it feels almost like the counterpoint to that, which is now I have that love, and now I'm gonna nurture it, and it's healthy love, and it's beautiful. It's a moment.
Wow.
I love it.
I could see that. It's like a flip side to the coin of Love Crush. Like, there's some connection there that I don't know fully, but I totally feel that. Yeah.
It's just one woman's kind of connection to that music, but yeah,
one brilliant woman.
Please, okay, thank you. But you round out your album on track 10 with a song entitled World, and it is very much a third act. It is very much a ending to a story that you've been telling for 9 tracks. And you know, we talked very early on in this interview about how, you know, you're 10 years removed from when who you were and where you were when Prince Lightmare came out, and now you're in a long-term relationship. And this song feels very much like you're talking to people who know what it's like to have had their hearts broken, or to have broken hearts, and now are in a place where they're looking out for number one first, and they want to make sure that I'm good so that I can be good for my partner. And that's just kind of what I was getting. I don't want to project too much, but I think it's a beautiful, beautiful end to this story that you're telling. So talk to us about World.
Well, throughout the process of having artists that I really gravitated to and researching the meanings of their songs, I would always come across the same sentiment from the artist when they're pushed on what does your song mean. They really want it to be open to interpretation, because everyone's going to have a different takeaway from a song, and that's kind of part of the point of music, is to let it be what it needs to be for different people. So that's true about all of these songs, first of all. But specifically for World, I was kind of circling back to a thread throughout the song Alien, where it talked about us coming together and embracing our differences, embracing each other, for better or worse, being okay with not seeing eye to eye on a bunch of things and still coming together anyway. And maybe it's like the only way we can survive, even as a species.
Stay if you wanna stay. I will be there for you. You can't keep me away. What all have we learned? What have we forgotten?
We zoomed out to the cosmic level. Now we're zooming out on a timeline. So looking, instead of space, now it's time that we're zooming out on. And we're saying that, you know, have we learned from history? Have we? And maybe there's things we should be learning more from history that we're not learning. And we keep repeating things. And it's kind of a frustration with that, but also a call to re-examine that.
Yeah, I mean, even the lyrics in World, you know, there's a little bit of a back and forth where it's like, you know, I don't want you to leave, but if you need to leave, you know, I'll be okay. Or, you know, if you stay, I want to be here for you. So there's just, you know, circling back to this theme that comes up for me as a listener of confidence, of just like, I want this love, I want to be in this love, but it's not going to make or break me. And it's just a beautiful, hopeful place that I think everyone wants to arrive at, and I think you've conveyed that really well. And I was just wondering if you know, with World in particular, if that song was born out of arriving at that point personally, or if it's something that you just want to convey, again, like aspirationally, to your listeners and audience.
Every relationship has its timeline. Some last for your whole life. Some people come in and out, and there is always like an unfinished element when someone you care about does have to leave or disappear or chooses to, and it's not clear, you know, why it happened that way or why you felt you had to leave, or so it's kind of just touching on that, because we've talked about every other stage of relationships. So this talks about an end to a relationship in a small way, but I don't think the whole song's about that, but it definitely does like go there for a minute. And like you said, say that sometimes it's okay. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I feel like the Prince Lightmare Chad would have been like, this is the end of the world that you're leaving me. And now the new Chad Siwik is saying, it's things end naturally sometimes. Yeah.
It's absolutely beautiful. I think the album is, dare I say, iconic. I think it is a literal tour de force of musical, technical prowess. The engineering on this album is absolutely chef's kiss, and the lyrics and just the vibe, all of it is just, it's everything you want. It's chill, it's dance, it's a full story. I absolutely think it's fantastic. And I just want to close out with asking you, you know, after, you know, the years that you've put into conceptualizing and producing this album, what does it feel like to know in just a couple of days that your baby you birthed the baby, sir? She's going out into the world. How do you feel?
I appreciate that so much, your words. And as an artist, it's impossible to be really objective, because you end up hearing your own work so much, and that you, in the end, maybe you're happy with it, but it's really hard to tell if it's something that is gonna like how it's gonna sit with a lot of other people. So just hearing that from you and knowing that from you it's genuine means a lot to me. But yeah, just this has been a long time in the making, and just it's an incredible feeling of accomplishment to have seen it through. I had a long journey with this album because I also do other things, and I'm not a full-time musician right now, so you know, it was a lot of hard work. It was a lot, like all my extra time and passion going into this, and it was also fun, but it was also a lot of hard work, and it's incredible to A, get that time back, and B, put this out and be proud of it, and not feel like it has to be perfect, because I don't think it ever can be. I'm happy enough with it that I don't feel like I had to super compromise and or rush it or anything like that. So I'm just really super happy that I can add it to my collection of music that's online, and you know, whatever anyone does with it, it's up to them, and hopefully some people will hear it and enjoy it. That's all you can hope.
Yeah, well, I want to say this about that. I just want to say, you know, as your friend, as objective as I can be, I think it's absolutely a masterpiece, and it's something you should be deeply, deeply proud of. I think a lot of other people, your fans and new listeners included, are going to agree with that sentiment. And I think that people who love Disney are going to be bumping Destination when they go to Disney, and I think that's going to be, you know, the Hot Girls Summer Trek. I'm just going to put that out there into the universe. But we want to shout out, you know, your partner in crime, Luke Icard, and yeah, why don't you just remind everyone where and when they can access the single and the album?
Well, yes, please also do look up Luke Icard online. He has his own music out as well. He was a real rock for me throughout this creative process, so I thank him so much for that, and he deserves like a lot of praise for doing this with me. And so his music's outstanding as well. We have a song out called Emotions that's not on the new album, that is a single that just came out. So check that out if you want to. I think that's one of the best ones we've done together, honestly, as well. And then he has a lot of just cool stuff that he's done. And we made this album completely virtually. We never saw each other once throughout the entire creation of the album. It was all just constant texting, lots of phone calls, a FaceTime or two, and a lot of like data being sent back and forth in ones and zeros from North Carolina to Florida and back again.
Yeah, it's very impressive that this was pulled off during quarantine and virtually. So kudos to making that happen. I know a lot of artists are probably finding that they birthed a lot of things out of quarantine that they may not have expected, and what you accomplished with the CHAD SIWIK self-titled second album is nothing short of beautiful. So I want to thank you so much for inviting us in and sharing insights into the story behind the album, and we all look very much forward to being able to stream it everywhere, right? Spotify, iTunes,
Yes.
SoundCloud.
Oh. Yeah, it's gonna be everywhere, so watch out. But yeah, no, any platform of your choice, it will be out there.
Thank you guys for watching. I will link everything CHAD SIWIK related in the description, so please check out Chad's amazing music on chadsivik.com and on all streaming platforms. We love you guys.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Mel, for doing this. I really appreciate
Of course.
it. You're too kind.
We'll see you on the other side.